Live on SportsGrid, it is Game Time Decisions with you here on a Friday night. I'm Kevin Walsh. 2 hours to go through tonight's slate. Plus, of course, we put an eye on the weekend. Saturday, great college basketball. NBA escalates with a major showdown between Embiid and Jokic for the final time of the regular season. Finals preview, anyone? It would be nice. And, of course, Sunday Conference Championship, which we will talk about here in our open. We will begin, though, by putting eyes on this NBA slate tonight here, where we have 8 games featured so far. And a lot of interesting spots. It starts in Atlanta, the expectation. I don't think we have official word just yet, but it is Trae Young will return for the Hawks. We know Kyrie is out for Dallas. Something to keep tabs on here. Charlotte will host the Rockets. Really interested to see how this team continues to develop props-wise without Terry Rozier. Phoenix goes to Indiana, who was able to grab their first win, the Pacers. Last night, since the Pascal trade, they beat up on the Philadelphia 76ers, now the second leg of a back-to-back. Clippers go to Toronto, Orlando to Memphis. Maybe the game of the night in New Orleans between the Pels and the Thunder. Big time total at 239. We have right now the Thunder sitting as a short 1.5-point favorite here. These are two of the top teams in the Western Conference. OKC has fully forced themselves into that conversation. Not as much on the New Orleans side, but a win like this year could go a long way. The Cavs again run it back with Milwaukee as they play their second game since the firing of Adrian Griffin. Radio audiences here, Sirius XM, Channel 159. Appreciate everybody who's here with us on this Friday night across the network. I'm Kevin Walsh with you as we're finishing out just a quick overview of the NBA slate. I'll hit my card in 10 minutes. A lot of good prop shots for us tonight, including a total. And then late night here, San Antonio and Portland. I saw Coach sent his picks out to the people. Couldn't make it here on a Friday, but I know he's on the Blazers, catching the 3.5. Interesting number as Wemby and the Spurs are favored for, I believe, just the third time all season long. We'll pull this back out, start to look a little bit at the conference championship games and where some of these numbers are sitting. First, Lamar against Mahomes, a 3.5-point spread with 4s appearing in the market. We talked early week when this game was settled how if you were confident in the side, you could go Monday. Flat 3s were out there for Ravens backers and 3.5s were there for those who like the Chiefs. Now going up to 4, you want as many points as possible. I don't think we get to 4.5, though. So I feel like 4 is likely your peak of the market. Not as much total movement here, sitting right now at 44.5. There's been a lot of back and forth conversation on this total, and either you're going to subscribe to the rain and the quality of these defenses, or, I mean, this is 4 MVP trophies sitting right here on these screens. Mahomes has 2. Lamar soon enough will be given his second, and that's hard to counteract. So we'll, again, continue to follow this game. On the NFC side of it, though, more notable line movement. 7.5 now is the number between the Niners and the Lions, and this is in spite of the majority of the bets coming in on Detroit. It suggests big money on San Francisco. It suggests Debo had a lot more uncertainty from the odds makers earlier in the week. Debo Samuel has been confirmed in for this football game off the injury report and will play. So now we have to try and figure out what does this do to the props market. A couple of spots for us to look. Of course, Ayuk and Kittle. What do these numbers become with Debo inserted? Brandon Ayuk at last look was 80.5. Now that Debo's there, what does that happen to the Ayuk number? Because Debo Samuel last week in the receiving category, right, we're in the 50s, 60s with this guy. Do they hang Debo Samuel at 50 total yards rushing and receiving for this game? Last week that number was in the 80s, and I was on the over. We didn't get a chance at it. I think he could have got there. It's irrelevant he didn't have enough time to play. What do the Debo props look like? What happens with McCaffrey? A lot of people hot on that under rush attempts prop. We played that last week at 18.5. It was a win. But if Debo's not going to be in the mix, it's a little bit worrisome. Plus, different game script there. Green Bay played a lot of controlling football. Not as much work was available for the Niners as far as plays goes. I'd be cautious on your CMC numbers there. If you like under, though, with Debo back in, that could cut into the workload 2-3 carries. That number keeps dropping. Something to consider right now with some of those McCaffrey props out there as well. Your total for this game is 51.5. If you take a look at the Super Bowl odds, we have Super Bowl hypotheticals already out and available in the market. What you'll notice is how much closer the Niners and the Ravens are coming. The minus 110 money line on San Francisco is juxtaposed by a minus 106 number for Baltimore in their expected head-to-head matchup. Will that sit? It depends on how these games play out. Let's just say these games land around the number. Niners by 7-10, Ravens by 3-6. Well, maybe then the Niners' victory would come off a touch more impressive. Get that line back up 1.5, 2.5. I don't think you see the Ravens favored unless it's a struggling Niners game again, and then Baltimore rolls Kansas City in the first game. It's going to be very interesting to see. Niners look ahead late 3 to KC. Ravens, if you look right now in a potential draw with the Lions, that number's above 4. At least 4 everywhere, above 4 at other spots. That number's actually been hit. It was initially opened at a 3.5. It's always interesting with those hypotheticals because you can kind of base it on what you know now, but you're going to learn something else here depending on who is able to advance. Let's put a quick pick on the board for the people here. We go to we go to the Hornets game, between the Rockets. I'm involved with LaMelo tonight, but the quick pick is something I'm hoping we can hit a 3-point prop in the first quarter for the second night in a row. Now, Steph Curry, what he did last night was outrageous. 5 threes in the first quarter, went over that 4.5 made 3-point prop. Could FEV give us 3 in the first quarter? Well, how about giving us 3 through 4 quarters? Let's not be too greedy. But FEV is in a clear and obvious bounce-back spot tonight against the Hornets. Saw this team earlier this year and was 5 out of 10 from deep. And that 10 number is very important here because we're looking for FEV to put up double-digit attempts. It would be the third consecutive games. 2 straight games for FVV of 2 for 10 from beyond the arc. Only once other time this year have we seen Fred go 3 straight games without hitting 3+ threes. Welcome in an awful Charlotte defense, and their volume that we've been seeing from Fred, who's still on the year, I believe is 10-3 to the over on a 2.5 prop when getting at least 10 attempts from beyond the arc. It lines up nicely. Like Fred VanVleet, but I do love LaMelo Ball in the matchup. I'll explain that, plus the rest of my card here on a Friday night. It is Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh with you here. We are back in just a couple of moments next on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
Well, look at the Heisman Trophy.
The early line.
And what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterback,
Pharrell coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time decisions.
I have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
in-game live.
Just
prime time.
Yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
that was
late
better.
night.
We waited for a 1.5. We got paid.
We did.
Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on.
There's no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back right here at SportsGrid, I'm Kevin Walsh. It's Game Time Decisions. Taking a look at, let's go off the FVV pick. We just talked about in the quick pick, the over 2.5 made threes for Fred tonight on the Houston side of it here. But I'm also on LaMelo Ball. So I played him for 25 plus, over 24.5 points. The juice on that was minus 135. I didn't mind it because it really solidified the trend, but you can certainly play the 25.5. And in fact, if you want, you can play him for 30 plus. This, to me, is a night where if you climb the ladder, I don't mind it one bit. Here's the story. LaMelo against the Detroit Pistons played his 10th game of the season without Terry Rozier. In the first 9 games, LaMelo had 25 plus in every single one of them. He landed 25 once, 26 or more in every single one of the other games with a number of 30-point performances. So that's why I was willing to take it down, because it's landed 25 before, made it worth it to add in another winner. Because now you're looking at a situation where LaMelo Ball, for the first time all season, didn't score 25 in a game he didn't play without Terry Rozier. I understand Houston's good defensively. I get it. But I counteract that with the fact that LaMelo's coming off of a very poor performance, 16 of 21, only scored 17 in that game against Detroit, and he's been much better this season at home. All of his shooting splits are on the rise, and he averages over 27 points per game at home. You don't see a ton of home road splits. It feels like factor into props, which then can create value when guys are better in certain situations, and I think that is true of LaMelo Ball. I think it's also true of Damian Lillard. So Dame, I actually got involved with him on the off day for me and played him up for the 25-plus against the Cavs. I'm right back to this number here, over 24.5 points, 25-plus. So Dame has now had consecutive games under 40% from the field. That's the 5th time this has happened all year long, 4-0 on the bounce-back spot. Pretty simple. It is pretty simple. But I think one of the things with the Adrian Griffin fire is it feels very Damian Lillard friendly, right? The notion with the current Bucks setup is, the defense, and it's very obvious that that is something that applies to Dame, right? The swap is Dame in, Drew out, Drew great defender, Dame awful defender. But then we also, Dame was kind of having, trouble with some of the schemes, right, being ran by Adrian Griffin. And maybe he didn't like some of the offense that was being run by Adrian Griffin. Look, that first game for him shot the ball 21 times from the field, paired that with 11 free throw attempts and 2 of 9 from 3. Dame tonight could explode. 40-plus, legitimately against the Cavs. Wouldn't shock me. He gets hot. He gets right. This is Dame's night. I like him over the 24.5, 25-plus points here for Damian Lillard, who's been better at home this season. I'm also taking Luka Doncic over the 3.5 made threes. We mentioned home road splits. Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home. Uptick in attempts at 10.9, uptick in makes 4.2. His efficiency is better away this season from Dallas. If you look on the year, he's played 15 games without Kyrie, 10-5 over a 3.5 maids 3 prop in that time frame. But more importantly, perhaps, 7-0 on the road. 3 of the games with 6+, 5 of the games with 5+. We're only asking for 4, but you could climb the ladder tonight for me with Luka Doncic over 3.5 made threes. Some of these props, admittedly, I don't love having a card full of minus 130s. I'm hoping for a big night. I like a lot of these numbers, and these numbers here work out, and I think it's a night where you can play alts, though, right? Maybe, and you don't want to kind of take defeat before a night. But if you take those 4 NBA player props here, maybe it's a 2-2 night, which would be disastrous through the juice. I'm hoping it's 4-0. It feels 4-0. It feels very 4-0. What if we climb the ladder on all of them? LaMelo 30, Dame 30, Luka 5, FVV for 4. Can we go 2-2 in that direction? We can, right? I don't mind that look here. The last NBA play for me is an under in Pels Thunder. Look, early season, talking 4th, 5th game of the year, they played total 228.5. So tonight we have a 239. Why? A lot more confidence has been put on the table about this Oklahoma City offense. And I get it, but these are 2 offenses coming off of 2 amazing games. A $140 last time out for OKC. It was unsurprising to see their offense step up in the way it needed to after the letdown offensive game they had against Portland at home. The Pels are coming off hanging a $153 on Utah. So you have 2 teams that just combined for about 290. Listen, Oldney would see that and go, got to be over. I think this game could be played a little bit slower. As I mentioned, these are 2 of the top teams in the Western Conference. Odds suggest it. Records, certainly for Oklahoma City, New Orleans climbing, 26-18. This is a spot here. I think you're going to see New Orleans get in the mix here. I think they could win this basketball game, and certainly the line suggests they could as well. It's a light number. But I like this under here tonight, 239. Either New Orleans keeps it close, plays it under, or they get routed, and there won't be enough points for them. They'll probably struggle to score 105. So I really like this from a couple of variants here tonight with that game under the 239. College tonight, just one ranked game. And as much as I tried to bet every MAC game on the board, Wisconsin, Michigan State is where we will go. Now, the line is a little surprising. 3.5 point spread that's been climbing. This thing opened at 2.5. And, you know, if I showed you Wisconsin at Michigan State, ranked Wisconsin, unranked MSU, and you have this, Sparty lining up, nobody's surprised by that, right? But Wisconsin, who's 11th on KenPom, now Michigan State, while they're 16th, it is not a massive gap. It still suggests Wisconsin is better. It's a very short line at home. Now, these teams already played. Wisconsin was on the road, of course, and they won that game outright. And I thought that was noteworthy. I think there is some degree, an idea here that Wisconsin will not be able to pull off the double. The line has also moved a lot. Michigan State, was 5.5 point favorites in that game. So Wisconsin is getting more respect, but that's also, I think, back when the book still had full belief in Michigan State. That kind of ebbed and flowed, and maybe didn't believe enough in a Wisconsin team that entered 6-2, left 7-2. We're at that point already finding themselves ranked inside the top 25. But what happened in that game is Tyson Walker scored 22 points. Let's get more of the same tonight. Give me Tyson Walker over the 17.5 points. Probably my favorite bet on tonight's slate. I think there's a lot of ladder climbing you could do as well with Tyson Walker. So clear and obvious bounce back spot for Walker. Coming off of his 4th game this season, shooting under 40% from the field. So, for Walker, has been one of the best players in the Big Ten this season, averaging nearly 20 a game. There's not been a lot of those ugly shooting performances. But in the 3 bounce-back spots prior, here's what you've had. 25 points, 9 of 16 shooting. 22 points, 9 of 14 shooting. 21 points, 7 of 13 shooting. That is an average of 22.7 points per game on 58% from the field. Tyson Walker has been absolutely brilliant in these spots. And if you want, you could play his PRA. That number checked in, and let me double-check on this here. But at last look, I believe we saw this number at 22.5. So Tyson Walker is not someone that particularly has, he doesn't have double-doubles, right? He's averaging under 3 rebounds and 3 assists per game, but he can elevate in a prop, and he can clear this on points alone, right? You look at the last time that they played Wisconsin, 22-4-1. You only needed a rebound or an assist to get over the PRA added. The points are the primary. That's why I'm playing the points. But if you want, you can also play the PRA. You can play him for 20-plus points. You can play him for 30-plus if you want PRA. I think Tyson Walker on the road here, his total's higher than their first meeting, from 131.5 up to 135. Michigan State getting respect on this line. I think Walker will have no issue battling on the road, right? We saw what he did at Northwestern. This is going to be a fine for Tyson Walker tonight in a spot they need him, and he's due for a nice bounce back after a struggling game against Maryland. Look for Tyson Walker over the 17 and a half points. We're hitting a break here, but when we come back, Mark Zito joins us. We'll put our eyes on the weekend slate with you on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman
The
Trophy
early
race
line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Pharrell
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
You
decisions.
have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was good
Late
betting.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid.
We
for
did.
patient, didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting, ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back with you here on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh. It's a Friday night. Some of the NBA injury report news that's been kind of coming out over the last hour or so. Paul George was questionable, but he's going to play tonight. They have confirmed the Trae Young return, out for a couple of games. He was out with a concussion. Zion Williamson still checking in questionable, so that could change that number a little bit. And then Jabari Smith, did they rule? Yeah, they ruled him out, of course, of Houston, which would help the FEV prop. Not that I was, you can kind of tell he was going to be out, but just something to keep your eye on. Quickly, I will bring up some of the Championship Sunday specials that are out and available inside the market, because there are a lot of big options, and it's always interesting to see where you could feel comfortable pressing this down. There is one, each team to score 2 field goals and 2 touchdowns in both games on Sunday at 35-1. Look, nothing is a guarantee, but both teams scoring 2 touchdowns, or all 4 teams scoring 2 touchdowns, you would like to think you'd be able to get that. Kansas City's team total is at 19.5, though, so 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. I believe it's still at 19.5, is what you would need to get through this number. But again, at 35-1, it is not bad. They are hanging each team for 2 passing touchdowns at 7-1. I don't love that as much. Each team for a rushing touchdown, that one is tough not to love, right? If you look at it, 3 of the 4 teams you would almost feel are an absolute guarantee for a rushing touchdown in Baltimore, Detroit, and San Francisco. So the question would become Kansas City, but Pacheco is plus 125 to score. We know Mahomes is capable of as a runner. He's not done it a ton this season. But again, if you just look through the anytime touchdown markets here, Lamar's plus 100, Pacheco plus 125, Gus Edwards plus 140. Obviously, the expectation is that those are rushing touchdowns. On the Niners side of it, you have, of course, CMC at a minus 300 number. Gibbs and Montgomery, though, plus 145 Gibbs, plus 175 Montgomery, are further back than their typical numbers, further back than you've seen them throughout their first 2 games this postseason. I think that could be a reason why you're seeing as big of a number here as you are at plus 500. But don't forget, Goff quarterback sneak, you could get paid in this. I think that at plus 500, that is a bit of a tempting number. They have some of these combinations, right? Lamar and Mahomes to combine for 100 rushing yards. Knowing Lamar could do it on his own is not bad. I have very much so, and I guess quite obviously, given up on the Lamar Jackson postseason long rushing touchdown prop that which I had, or not rushing touchdown, but rushing yards of under 117.5. He would need 17 or less this week and to be eliminated. It's all good. It's not going to happen. One market that has not been reposted, and I'll look around here quickly, but I've not seen a reposting of the odds to lead the playoffs in scoring. There is still some intrigue, certainly for me, who's involved in the market, to see how that would land, because all 4 teams available could still end up winning this market. And neither dog needs an outright victory to end up becoming the chief team in that market. The Packers are the leader presently as things sit for the most points scored in the postseason. You would think that that will be bypassed by both Kansas City and Detroit. The question becomes, could either of these teams leave a big enough number on the table in defeat to secure that victory? If either Kansas City or Detroit pull off an upset, you could almost guarantee they are going to end up winning that market for the highest scoring team. I have a piece of Detroit, so I'm still trying to root that in. I believe we have Mark Zinno joining us now here on Game Time Decisions. Mark, how are you?
Good. Apologies. I was diving into tomorrow's college basketball cards so deep, down rabbit holes I couldn't get out of. It's just one of those cards tomorrow that is lighting up like a Christmas tree, that is screaming at me for a whole bunch of games.
Can I get 1 or 2 out of you then?
Yes.
I mean, to make it all worth it? Well,
yes.
What do we got?
Absolutely. Well, let's start, kind of at some of the off the beaten path stuff. Delaware at home against Towson. They're laying 3. I'll probably money line it. Towson just coming off a big win over Drexel, the best team in the conference at home. Now they have to go on the road to play a Delaware team that's probably the second best team in the Colonial here, looking for a little bit of a letdown spot as they go on the road. Boise State, an unranked favorite at home against a ranked Utah State team, and a little bit of a revenge spot as well for the Boise State Broncos. If we can get any clarity on Kadarius Richmond for Seton Hall and if he's going to play, Seton Hall getting 9.5 points is a level of insanity that I can't even begin to speak on tomorrow at Marquette. And I know it's a big revenge spot for Marquette as Seton Hall beat him earlier in the year, but if Kadarius Richmond plays, nobody within the top 7 or 8 in the Big East should be laying 9 points to another top 7 or 8 team in the Big East. It's just too much of a crowded room. I think Arkansas is dead. Kentucky laying 6 on the road, and it's gross to lay points on the road in conference play. But Arkansas, after what they did the last game out, that game against South Carolina where they were home and they stunk the joint up, I think they are dead. I think Musselman has lost this team. I think his mojo is gone. I don't know if he needs to rip his shirt off or what, but these kids are not playing hard for him. Kentucky coming off the loss, the bad loss that they just took, should be looking to exact some punishment on a team that is the worst offense in the SEC in Arkansas. And look at this. Time to fade Dayton, who has won, 16 in a row now? And undefeated in conference. Richmond catching 3.5 at home. Feels like a little bit of a money line sprinkle as well on the Richmond Spiders here, plus 3.5. So I have been, there's like 5 or 6 more games that I have. And the stinkiest line of all, by the way, and I can smell it from Pennsylvania. Penn State is laying 2.5 to Minnesota. Go figure that one out.
All right, there we go. College board, man, those Saturdays are good, man. The Saturdays are good. How about the Mountain West, man, sending Utah State into Mountain West getting a lot of love this year. It'll be interesting to see how many teams they end up putting in the tournament. I can't help myself, though, Mark, because so far you've delivered each time. NBA tonight, did you have one ugly one for us?
I know. I tried to find something ugly as best I could. I mean, I have just been, the ugly games seem to jump out at me. Look, the Hawks are about to tip off and I haven't checked this, honestly. If Trae Young is playing, I would take the over in the game. If he is, I'd take the over. And the over shot up from 243 to 246. I'd still take the over. Absolutely would. And I would actually take the 2 points from Dallas because Atlanta's just a terror. By the way, Atlanta, who started out the season 12-3 to the over at home, 5 consecutive games have just gone under. Probably time to snap that streak tonight and going over 246. The one other thing I looked at today was the Clippers. Their team total was at 121.5 this morning. I haven't checked it in a while. I know the line has gone up from 7.5 to 8. Here's the problem with my one fear in that game. Like, the Clippers offensively have been insane. They've scored at least 125 in 6 of their last 7. They're just a very good offensively efficient team here. Toronto's in a free fall. They've lost 7 of 8. They're only 3-5 against the spread over that span, including the Clippers beating the hell out of Toronto 16 days ago as part of that whole stretch. Toronto, since they have traded away everybody on, right on New Year's Eve, and since those trades with the Knicks and now Pascal Siakam is gone, this is a team that went from giving up 115 points per game on 48% shooting to 120 points per game on 49% shooting, and they're losing the rebounding edge over that span as well. I would contemplate laying with the 8, but I think the team total over is probably the safer bet. My only concern is if Toronto's not scoring, guess what? Clippers will just slow this pace down, right? Like, this could be the pace for them to go over 120 by half, and by the end of the third quarter, when it's a 24-point quarter for the Clippers because it's an 18-point quarter for the Raptors, guess what? There's no reason to push anything in the fourth, and that may be the worry here. Oh, here's the ugly game of the night. I didn't do it, but after what Portland has been through in the last 2 days, that gut punch loss they took to OKC where they protested the game, and then the overtime over Houston, San Antonio laying 3.5 feels like the right side. That, to me, is the ugly spot of the night.
There we go. I like it. We're pressed for time, but that was well worth it. Mark, what the heck are you going to do with these games on Sunday? I'm sure you've told plenty of people about that. I think it's far more valuable to hear about the Spurs laying 3.5. But what are you doing on Sunday? 2 big games.
Sides and total. Look, I went Ravens money line. I think they win the game. I got it on Sunday night at -170. So I ended up with a really good number just because we're over -200 right So it's not. It's hard for me to endorse guys laying 2-1 on any bet. Like it's just bad juju overall. I was willing to do it. Just it was more emotional because I was on the Bills last week. I'm like, screw it. I'm taking the Ravens money line because they're winning. But anyway, I looked into the prop market a lot. I think Christian McCaffrey's over receiving yards. He's going to be the beneficiary if Debo is limited or doesn't play. Although I saw him at practice yesterday. It looks like he's actually pretty spry and bouncing around, but who knows if he's going to play or not. So I think Christian McCaffrey gets the receiving yards in that. I think you have to look to the under in the first game between the Ravens and the Chiefs. You're over the key total of 44, right? I mean, 24-20 still seems like a lot of scoring in the rain for two really good defenses. Like, I don't know that there's a way that this gets over 44 without something quirky like a special teams touchdown or a defensive touchdown. I think if you keep everybody scoring on the offensive side, the under is where I'd go. And I would look to Lamar Jackson's over rushing yards.
All right, there we go. It was about only 5 minutes, but I think people left with double-digit picks there, Mark. So we appreciate it a ton. I really like that Spurs pick. I really, really do. All right, Mike Blewett is going to step up next. No, Mark, commit to it. I'll tell you why in the break. Commit to it. We'll be right back here with more Game Time decisions next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with one touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy
The early line
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at this deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Pharrell
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
You
decisions.
have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports
That
Rage
was good
Late
betting.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid.
Yeah.
Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting, ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
back on Sports Grid with Game Time Decisions. Kevin Walsh joined by my good man Mike Blewett. Mike, how are you?
Up on Sunday. I thought we had a great weekend last weekend, so fired up to run it back. Let's get some good games going.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I want to start with the game that I have no idea. What game were you doing Sunday?
I'm Lakeland, NFC.
Ooh, that put me in a bind. I was like, this guy Mike might be live for half of each game. I have no idea. All right, so let's do the
just have somebody do the first half. Bring Blewett and Rainieri in for second half, first half.
Yep.
Not sure what they're going to do in between the games, but they'll make it work.
Me and Lisi in there somewhere, if I had to guess. Look, talk to me then. Niners Lions. This line's working its way up to 7.5. Are you surprised by that?
A little bit, but I figured I assume we'll probably get to a flat number at some point. But we saw some Lions money, and then the line still moving in the way of the Niners. I have concerns about laying the 7.5. Really, only for one reason, though. I guess two reasons. Debo, obviously, we don't know how effective he can be, but he's out there practicing, so maybe we'll get a little bit of Debo. And then Purdy not playing well the other night. That was a real concern for me. The one question, Kev, that we've had for the Niners for months is, okay, they're obviously dominant. They run a great scheme. They're super talented. But come January, early February, is Brock Purdy going to be able to answer the call? And because it rained a little bit, that goes out the window. That's a big concern to me, personally. And if not for really bad throws by Jordan Love, they probably lose that football game. They're outplayed for most of it. It's really about Purdy. Yeah. On the flip side, we know that Goff isn't particularly good on the road. He's been great in the postseason thus far. And we have a unit in the Detroit Lions pass defense that is probably the worst unit of any of these four teams. And if that Niners scheme, can take advantage of them, it could be a long day for them.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, Mike, like it is a big number, but one of the things, I think it was you, he was like, well, what's your final score? And if I keep going, 34-24, well, the number's supposed to be big.
Yeah.
And I think really the number that even though it's not a number that I'm banging the table, whoa, this number's wrong, this number has so much value. But with the side of the total, it's that Niners team total. It's confidence that Brock Purdy plays a really good football game, that CMC is going to be able to get out there and get active. And it's almost leaving the Lions offense out of it to a degree, Mike, because if they have a great game, great, push the Niners. And if they no-show it there, well, that's not going to impact the full 51.5.
True. So I think I have concerns about the total going over, Kev, which is probably why I'm leaning towards, that 7.5 is a little dicey to me. I obviously think the Niners are the better football team, but Sam Laporta going up against the toughest linebacker tandem in the league, how effective is he going to be? He was obviously great last week, as was Jahmyr Gibbs.
Good point.
And in fact, I think that Jahmyr Gibbs, if the Lions are to win this football game, I think we'd look at the box score or look at the story of the game, and Jahmyr Gibbs would have to be a significant part of this game, catching and running the ball. So I look for him to be a really big part of it. Amon-Ra St. Brown is an elite wide receiver, even against a good defensive backfield in the Niners, which is somewhat compromised through injury. I think he can still have a good game, but not have to take the whole thing over. I think this is really about Gibbs becoming a big part of what the Lions can do to push it forward. On the Niners side, it's easy to say because it's week in, week out, but I think Christian McCaffrey has to be the biggest part of this game. I think he can help to control the clock, keep the Lions off the field, prevent perhaps some of that explosive play. And we've talked about it for months. Joe Rainieri and I have, and I've mentioned it on here too, Kev, with you, is that the Niners were utilizing Christian McCaffrey late in games that they were blowing teams out of and refused to sit him. Now it is the time when he can touch the ball 20 times a game. And I know he's been coming up shy on that number of touches. I happen to think that this will not be one of those games. Kittle, McCaffrey, Ayuk are going to be the big guys in this game, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, that CMC number, it's very funny how this works, but all of a sudden now as someone who last week was able to bet his under 18.5 attempts and get out of there with a win, that number's now 19.5, and they're saying the most popular bet of the weekend is that under 19.5. I don't do this or anything, but I don't like, hey, what's the public on? An under involving McCaffrey. Sounds bad. Sounds like 25 carries. if I just had to pinpoint it. I will say, though, with that, Mike, I actually believe this is an important game if the Niners are going to advance from that Super Bowl MVP conversation we've had.
Yeah.
Because if this is another 2-touchdown McCaffrey game, Brock only throws 250, a score, a pick, then that narrative is really going to be at its peak that, listen, Brock doesn't matter here. But if Brock Purdy goes out there and does what Stafford and Baker did, 320+, 3 passing touchdowns, people are going to be reminded that the most important position in this league is the quarterback position, and we know it is.
Of course. If Brock does that, the Lions are in big, big trouble. If he puts up a big number like that, I don't anticipate it, but I just feel like as good as this Lions team is, and this is not just feel-good story, it's not fair to the Lions to just for that narrative to keep playing over and over again. Like, oh, this is such a feel-good 1957, and we keep mentioning it's like, all right, they busted their ass for years to get this team together, and they've made Jared Goff really good. Their offensive coordinator is one of the elite play callers in the league. Dan Campbell has set the tone. Their offensive line are butt kickers up and down. So they have talent everywhere. But they are going up against a team where matchups for them are not the best. We've mentioned the linebacking core against their rookie star tight end. Their pass rush led by Aiden Hutchinson going up against a Niners offensive line that is really good. So at each step of the way, they're going to be met with real challenges to the way that their roster is built. They are going to have to try to control it. I think Gibbs is the guy that they'll do that through. Montgomery, perhaps, but not as versatile, right? We've seen times throughout the year where Montgomery's been really good, but not as versatile as Gibbs. I think that his versatility would be a big part of it. But Purdy, over 1.5 touchdown passes, Kev, props like that are things that I'm looking at. I think Ayuk has the possibility to be explosive because of this Lions defensive backfield, which got a lot of credit for playing well against Tampa. And then you look up, and what did Baker do? What did Mike Evans do? By the end of the game, those were big numbers.
Yeah, they absolutely were. And again, let me see if it's actually moved since, and then I'll bring up this other game here. But I told you, I think, earlier in the week, I want Debo to play so I can be more focused on Brandon Ayuk. Folks didn't move it an inch. Oh, they didn't move it an inch.
Yeah.
You know, it's very funny when you have these moments where you think you're smarter than the books, and they're like, "What do you?" Of course, we knew.
Of course, yeah.
We knew the whole time.
You think we're going to make the injured guys line what it normally is?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, son of a gun. What are you going to do? Ravens Chiefs. As this week has gone on, how have you found this game kind of transitioning for you, or still focused in that Baltimore's the right way to go?
Last week, I thought that Chiefs-Bills was a tough call, but I started as the week went on. I felt better and better about a Chiefs win. Now, the game played out differently than how I thought it was going to, and the Chiefs still get the victory. I just don't. I've come to a place as a Steelers fan. You see the memorabilia behind me. As a Steelers fan, I don't know who's going to knock off the Ravens at this point. They have lost one game in which Lamar has played since October 8th. A loss to the Steelers, by the way. They're 10-1. They've scored 31 points or more in his last 7 home games. They've got 3 turnovers in their last 7 games and 14 the other way. They're plus 11 in the last 7 games in which Lamar has played. It's overwhelming. The only team that had a better turnover differential during the year than Baltimore was the New York Giants, ironically. I don't know really how that happened, but that's how it worked out for them. So the Washington game where they had a +6 probably is how that happened. But I just think there's a lot of things I continue to look at. The Mark Andrews thing will be a boost for them, but I don't necessarily expect it to be this week. The questions that I've had about Baltimore all along, they've answered. Lamar's healthy. The offensive line is certainly good enough. The defensive line may not have any big names like Terrell Suggs back in the day, but They have guys like Justin Madubuike that are really stepping up and creating a lot of problems. Marlon Humphrey getting healthier, Kyle Hamilton getting healthier. It's just a pretty talented team. We haven't even mentioned the linebackers getting Queen and Roquan Smith. It's a lot to deal with, and I think they do a good job of turning the ball over. But there's a few things about the Chiefs that you have to love from what you saw last week. They were very efficient when they got the ball. They had the ball for 23 minutes. Mahomes threw the ball 23 times in total, and they scored 27 points, and it should have been 34 if not for Mecole Hardman's ridiculous fumble. So that efficiency is a big part of it. I'm looking at, I know you love this, but I'm looking at both kickers. I think the kickers will play a role here, and their coaches are not afraid to use them. I think the Mahomes rushing prop is something that we'll look at because there'll be enough pressure there, and that number is low enough that we've seen Mahomes take off in the playoffs before. I think that's definitely in play.
Yeah, I mean, look, the quarterback rushing props are really becoming one of the most interesting things because so many of these guys are mobile, and books get put in a spot. They hang numbers. If they base it off the regular season, they're just going to get beat to death by these numbers. But then there comes a point, Mike, where Lamar Jackson averaged under 46.5 rushing yards per game in the regular season.
Right.
We're dealing with a number that's 20 yards higher than his typical. It's a postseason number. It's difficult to figure out what the right idea then is on the Lamar number, but I almost feel like you don't play 66.5. You just,
I agree.
You bet him for 90, right?
Yeah.
And if he gets there, he gets there.
Right. You go alt rush or, sweating it out like, oh, he got to 67. That's not the way we're winning this bet. We're like, of course I knew Lamar was going to have 91 yards on the ground, or they were blowing him out, so Gus Edwards and Justice Hill took it the rest of the way.
I think that the world where the Ravens control the game, he could play under, but the attempts were so much last week. It could, and I'm not gonna bet it over. I don't think I can allow myself to bet something that I know is like 15 yards too high.
Yep.
But I don't know how you stop it. Like, he's going to take off. Like, can I get a first half rushing yards prop, Mike?
I mean, we can look, right?
We can look. Hey, all we can do is try.
All we can do is look. All we can do is keep looking.
All we can do is try. Man, I look forward to watching this all play out. Tell people again, Mike, when you are live this weekend for these games.
It'll be 6:25 to 10, so we take over right before the NFC game. I do expect it to be close in the early game, so I'll be watching right there along with everybody at home watching and listening. I expect a good one, a classic in the AFC, and hopefully the NFC can live up to it as well. But Jared Goff and the Lions are going to have to take that game on the road in a way that they haven't done really all year against a good team.
Lamar against Mahomes, Purdy against Goff. Exactly how it should be, baby. Exactly how it should be. Mike Blewett again. Catch him on In Game Live this weekend covering the NFC title game. We'll get you an hour number one best bet after this commercial break.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
Well, look at the Heisman Trophy.
The early line.
And what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news. Trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterback,
Pharrell,
backup quarterback.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
I have
decisions.
no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
In the bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
Late
good betting.
Night.
We waited for a 1.5. We got paid.
We did.
Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting, ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live on SportsGrid with you here. It is a Friday night. I'm Kevin Walsh. Let's get you a little NBA best bet. Hour number 2, we're going to go to the college game here. But give me LaMelo Ball over 24.5 points. Great spot here for LaMelo. Terry Rozier, obviously now a member of the Miami Heat, although I probably should be on a bit of a ban from bringing up Rozier's name after I wasted everybody's time talking about Rozier props just to watch him score 0 second-half points. It is what it is. But LaMelo against Detroit, for the first time all season, in a game that he played in, but Terry did not, failed to hit 25 points. This is great value here. 9-0 on 25-plus for LaMelo Ball in the first 9 games without Terry Rozier. He missed it against Detroit, shooting 6 of 21. This prop, though, was posted at 28.5. I get it. Pistons defense versus Rockets defense, way different caliber, fair. But this is a guy that averages 27 points per game at home. Give LaMelo Ball over 24.5 points here in this matchup tonight in Houston. I'm also in this game on FVV over 2.5 made threes. 2 consecutive games where he shot 2 of 10 from 3. Double-digit attempts is key. 10-3 on the season when getting double-digit attempts up for over 2.5 made threes. Plus, earlier in the year went 5 out of 10 against the Hornets. And we've only seen it happen one other time this season where Fred VanVleet has gone 3 consecutive games without making 3+ threes. So I think you'll see FVV tonight get a little bit hot from beyond the arc. We will go through the rest of the card in a bit here. We will also kick it over to Davis Maddock, who's helping us out tonight in a game that Martin Zinno called the ugly game of the night, Spurs Blazers. Davis Maddock has a same-game parlay involving the side, the total, and the potential rookie of the year. A lot more to come here as we will also be joined by Dave Sharapan, Joe Lisi, and NFL insider Adam Kaplan, all coming up. We are back, though, in less than a minute. Lock in. It's Game Time Decisions on a Friday. Live on SportsGrid is a Friday night. I'm Kevin Walsh with you here. We have some news coming out of Ann Arbor, though. Michigan is going to be promoting Sherrone Moore to head coach, replacing Harbaugh. Kind of obvious, right? The guy had to coach some of the most important games of the season in replacement of Harbaugh. Already there, this kind of works out pretty nicely. So Michigan, it allows them to keep their continuity. I think this will help them avoid any of the transfer portal disasters that Alabama went through with Nick Saban retiring here for Michigan. A layup, no doubter decision. This news, no surprise, broke by former Michigan man Adam Schefter of ESPN that Sherrone Moore is going to be promoted to head coach with the Michigan Wolverines. We mentioned, though, their national title odds suggest a repeat is going to be difficult for the Wolverines. That team right now, at last look, was 17-1. And is were they 14-1 or 17-1? 14-1 now. 14-1 now. I can tell you that much. In front of them, LSU, Oregon, Alabama, Texas, Ohio State, and the favorite. That would be the Georgia Bulldogs. It'll be interesting to see how these numbers move throughout the summer and how the conversation around the expanded playoff field impacts the futures market for college football, knowing that there's going to be a lot more seats at the table, teams potentially being able to survive the rockier starts to the season as long as they're playing their best football and get into the, if you will. That's all that matters. Let's get our radio audience in the mix here. Appreciate all those who stopped by across the network, including SiriusXM, Channel 159, Sports Grid Radio. I'm Kevin Walsh with you on Game Time Decisions. Let's send it over to Davis Maddock, who goes to San Antonio. Spurs Blazers for a same-game parlay.
All right, guys, we are back for another same-game parlay. Over on the FanDuel Sportsbook, continuing the trend of betting on NBA action as the NFL season only has 3 games left to go. We are going to turn our attention to the Portland Trail Blazers and the San Antonio Spurs, really the 2 of the 3 worst teams in the NBA. We're actually going to take the Spurs here at home, minus 2.5 points, as the first leg of our 3-leg same-game parlay. I've been big on Wembanyama, guys. I am buying this experience. They were not really all that competitive against Oklahoma City. They did play within 10 points against Philadelphia in that crazy Joel Embiid game. I kind of like what they are building there with Wembanyama at center. We are also going to take the over on 230.5. While the Spurs are developing on offense, they are not developing anything on defense, giving up 127, 133, and 140 on defense in their last 3 games. And then finally, we are going to add Victor Wembanyama to score 20 or more points. He has been over 24 points in each of his last 5 games. Pop is allowing him to play more minutes. Might even be playing on the second night of back-to-backs now. This 3-leg same-game parlay is going to give us plus 300 odds. Spurs minus 2.5. Over 230.5, and Victor Wembanyama to score 20 or more points in this game. Good luck tonight, everybody.
Appreciate the breakdown there from Davis. I wanted to mention one thing. He has Victor Wembanyama in there for 20-plus points. I want to pull up the odds on that quickly. This is very selfish of me, admittedly, but I can't help myself. So Wemby for 20-plus tonight is minus 380. Victor Wembanyama is, at the moment, looking like he can score 20 on every single night, and that's exactly what is suggested by that number. He is currently averaging 20.4 points per game. If you go back to the NBA Futures show that we did, look, there's some stuff, admittedly, getting beat up on. Jordan Poole, bad idea. Climb the ladder a little too much with Devin Booker. That's okay, right? Win totals shakier than I was hoping. It is what it is, okay? Well, one of my absolute favorites, and I was talking this through as well when I was kind of going through the cards, was Wemby to average 20 points per game and 2 blocks at plus 450. And you knew kind of going in that was going to really just be a wager on Wemby to average 20 a night. He's averaging 3.2 blocks per game. He is now, as you can tell, fully expected to just score 20 every game. He's averaging almost 25 points per game in the month of January. It is a big reason why Victor Wembanyama has flipped to the favorite to win Rookie of the Year. The argument is now looking like it is going to come down to better player versus better team. Chet versus Wemby. I know people who dive in say there's more, it's more complicated. Yes, it is more complicated than that. But the raw surface argument, Chet plays for a better team and is contributing to a lot of winning basketball. Wemby looks to be putting up the better statistics. And Wemby is winning out right now at minus 180. You know, there was a stretch. Chet was minus in this department here for Rookie of the Year. They just had a head-to-head. And ultimately, the Thunder won big. Didn't matter. Wemby scored about 25, had a couple of good plays, gets the better of the matchup. I think, you know, for Wemby, for my prop, for all this, Pop will decide it. That's what it's going to come down to, is how much time Pop is going to be willing to give to Victor Wembanyama in these spots. And it'll make for a very, very interesting race. I want to make sure I have anything that's going to start around 7:10, 7:30 out here for the people. And that's going to be Luka Doncic over 3.5 made threes. We've talked about Luka here on the road. Upticks the volume without Kyrie on the road. 7-0 to the over on this prop. And then we've got FVV over the 2.5 made threes tonight. Fred VanVleet for Houston. And on the other side of it is LaMelo Ball over 24.5 points. Other games tipping at 7. Phoenix and Indiana. Expect Kevin Durant to have a nice game. If you're a parlay player, you're looking for a safer leg. I do think his 25 plus absolutely fits that description. I know you might say, oh, wow, how bold. KD for 25. It's around minus 300. Caveats. If you are looking for a parlay piece, that is something that I would use and I'm using in one of mine. And then 7:30, Toronto and LA. Paul George would have been a look back-to-back games from Paul George, but that questionable tag comes in, bigger line. If they extend here against the Raptors, I worry a little bit about that spot. Everything else is 8 o'clock or later, so we will dive in when it is time. But up next, we get the chance to talk to NFL insider Adam Kaplan around some of the very interesting decisions that were made this week by NFL franchises with their head coaching moves and, of course, where that leaves Bill Belichick. Is Bill Belichick, he's going to hop on the grid? I mean, I don't know. We could maybe make some room for him on the PFT set. Something to consider. It probably ends up, though, in the booth. And is Bill going to work his way back? Could he be a coordinator? Stuff we'll try and figure out. Maybe Adam Kaplan can give us some answers on that. We take a break. We come right back here on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
Well, look at the Heisman Trophy.
The early line.
And what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news. Trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Pharrell,
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time decisions.
I have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
In the bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
Late
good betting.
Night.
We waited for a 1.5. We got paid.
We
We
did.
didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting, ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We're live on SportsGrid. I'm Kevin Walsh, now joined by NFL insider Adam Kaplan. And Kev and I just got to talking a little bit during the break, and I got to tell you, I'm already now looking forward to being out there Vegas week, and hopefully, Kat, we can find some time to dive more and more into these subjects there. I want to start in the NFC South just with the Atlanta thing quickly. I almost feel a little bad. Now, feel bad. Raheem Morris gets hired, and the whole story is, oh, wow, Bill Belichick didn't get hired. That was the starting point, I feel like, for so many people there. That's the angle I wanted to make sure I asked you about before we get lost in anything else. Just what are you expecting now for Bill Belichick? How surprised is he potentially he doesn't have a job already?
Yeah, that if you said, give me your top surprises for this coaching cycle, and there are 2 left, by the way. Probably Mike Vrabel, one being fired by the Titans. I did write for Pro Football Network prior to him getting fired. That keep an eye on the situation. There's a lack of clarity about how things are going to be done going forward. But guy's such a good coach. I didn't expect him to get fired. But there were some issues between he and management, particularly the owner, that never got resolved. So with Bill, it was really only Atlanta. Watching from a cursory level, you have to understand with Washington, Kevin, you've got Adam Peters, a first-time general manager who has full personnel control. He's going to want to bring in his own guy. Bill, whether he's willing to give up personnel control or not, he's going to have a lot of input and a lot of say on how things are done wherever he goes. When he wants to coach again, by the way. So we fast forward to Atlanta. Raheem Morris was there before. Yes, the Falcons interviewed Bill twice, but it doesn't guarantee you anything. I'll say this much, talking to league sources, entering into the process, he was the guy most people thought would get the job. But when they kept interviewing more people, Kevin, after he had a second interview, that was a sign to me something didn't go right. They could not agree on some things because he would have been the head coach then. Now, Raheem Morris, he was too young, Kevin, in his early 30s when he was the Bucs head coach. Super smart guy. Now in his mid to late 40s, he's ready to be head coach. I love this. I love this hire. He's going to bring in most likely Zach Robinson as his offensive coordinator. The 2 developed a good relationship during their time here with the Rams. Zach is a pass game coordinator who was drafted by the Bengals. I was actually talking to one of his former coaches about him this week about what to expect about their offense in Atlanta. For those of us who cover the league kind of knew this was going to happen. It's not official yet. It's got to happen, but most likely it's going to be Zach Robinson. He runs a West Coast offense, by the way. Raheem Morris knows what it's like to coach against it in practice. I like this hire. He was with them before, let's not forget, as a defensive coach. So this guy's won a Super Bowl, super smart guy, great energy and passion. He's going to be a success this time around. I like Zach Robinson coming in here. But the only thing is he's not called plays before. But I think we have to learn, Kevin, over time, just because you've not called plays before doesn't mean that you can't be a success. Ben Johnson's had never called plays before. He's the hottest head coaching candidate this year.
Yeah, look, I think that's a great point. Then let's stick in the NFC South with the fact that Dave Canales gets hired by Carolina. And I thought it was interesting. The first thing that I saw was a surprise when describing this hire. How have you reacted to this move for Canales to go from Tampa Bay to Carolina?
Well, to stay in the division. No, so I'm told by a pretty strong source there that it was all about the development of Bryce Young this season. There's no question about it. Now, I know a lot of fans wanted Ben Johnson. Washington, again, is the team that most likely, if they do go with him, it's because of offense. But getting back to Carolina, I reported this actually twice, that last year Ben Johnson was going to be their guy. He decided he didn't want to interview. They were actually going to pair him up with Brian Johnson, who was then the Eagles quarterbacks coach, who got promoted to offense coordinator, then unfortunately got fired. But Ben now is coaching, so they can't get to him, and they were not willing to wait. And the bottom line is, when you look at it, Dave Canales has done a great job of developing quarterbacks. Look at the job he did with Russell Wilson. But most recently, look at the job he did with Baker Mayfield, who people thought was washed up at 28 years old. Baker did a great job, and Canales, talking to people who've worked with him, has got great energy and passion. He connects well with his players. This is a nice hire on the surface, but we got to see what Dan Morgan, their new general manager, who got promoted from assistant GM to GM, plus he's got the president title. He's going to get paid a lot of money. He had a couple years left on his contract, as I understand it, and now Dave Tepper, the owner, promoted him, and they love him there inside that building. We'll see how these guys work together. And Canales right now has got to develop Bryce Young. It's all about developing Bryce Young and Dan Morgan, getting players around Bryce Young so that he can mature here as a quarterback.
So one of the things, Cap, that I was thinking about the other day to myself is obviously Carolina ended up with the worst record in the league, right? But they don't have their pick, so it doesn't matter. I really wonder that if this team would be moving off of Bryce Young if they had the pick, right? But obviously that isn't an option. So Bryce Young is going to be given more time. How much time is the Bryce timeline now completely tied to Canales, and they're both going to be given 2 years? Like, because he got a 6-year deal, right? But you were telling me 6 years means nothing, right? Frank Reich got a ton of years, and he didn't even hardly lasted 6 weeks.
Yeah, no, you're right, Kevin. So yeah, the contract means something to the agent and the coach because they get paid even if they get fired. But in terms of, oh geez, the guy's got a 5 or 6 year deal, they won't fire him. It doesn't matter anymore. Owners are billionaires and coaches are millionaires. Okay, the coaches don't want to get fired, but they'll be paid. They'll be paid not to be the head coach if they get fired. So it doesn't really matter the length. It's just about can they get the job done. So the way it was explained to me, Kevin, when you evaluate a head coach. Okay, the guy comes in his first year, he installs his offense, brings his coordinator. In this case, Canales is going to call the plays, as I understand it. But they typically, owners, as it was explained to me privately, Kevin, is they want to see improvement over the year 1 to year 2. It's not so much the record. If you're there every day, and David Tepper's there all the time, you want to see improvement. You want to see a buy-in. Even if it's 1 or 2 more wins, you want to see improvement. But if you don't see improvement, the guy will be on the hot seat going into year 3. That's just the way it is. There's no way around it. And when you look at the situation with David Tepper, I mean, you and I were talking about this during the break, and we'll talk about it now. The guys show no patience. Now, Frank Reich, David Tepper was on, as I understand it by multiple sources, David Tepper was on Frank Reich all the time. Frank Reich, one league source said, watching their games and seeing the camera on Frank Reich, he looked defeated. I think that's fair from what I've heard. But Frank Reich's got a lot of money coming to him, and he doesn't sound like he wants to be coaching anytime soon. From interview, I know he did a local interview, so they've moved on here. Dave Canales is a relatively young head coach, not the youngest, but he's one of the youngest head coaches, and he's been in coaching a long time with Pete Carroll, and 1 year did a great job there. We'll see how it goes. But to finish off the point about Bryce Young, I could tell you privately they were absolutely sold on Bryce Young. There's no question about it. Tepper was on board. The former GM Scott Fitterer, Dan Morgan, Frank Reich, by the way. Josh McCown, who was their quarterbacks coach, everyone was on board with that. You can't go back and say C.J. Stroud because nobody knew, Kevin. Let's go back to that. Okay, no one thought C.J. Stroud would be this good this soon. And Bobby Slowick, by the way, never called plays before. You never really know until you get there in coaching and work with a quarterback. It's an unbelievable story and good for the Texans. But I could tell you, talking to the Panthers, they're absolutely sold on Bryce Young.
And look, I'm obviously nowhere near as qualified as the people in that room in Carolina, Cap, but I thought Bryce was the guy coming out, right? I think what's so interesting is they decided to throw him right to the fire. And I know, obviously, that's what they did with CJ, and it worked. And, I mean, that's what they did with Anthony Richardson, right? He just ended up getting injured. I wonder if at all there's any regret of having Bryce start right away. Because remember, he got injured, Cap, and Dalton started that game in Seattle. And he actually moved the football pretty well, but it's revisionist history. There's so much more we could get into. Luckily, we have Sunday and then a whole week out there in Vegas. Cap, I greatly appreciate it. And I'll talk to you Sunday on Pro Football Today.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, great stuff, as always, there from NFL insider Adam Kaplan. Speaking of Sunday, Pro Football Today, I'll, of course, be with Donnie Rightside and Joe Lisi. Joe Lisi will be here next. If I know Joe, none of his opinions have changed. They've all grown stronger around the AFC and NFC Conference Championship games. So I look forward to talking to him about those, and that's next right here on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with one touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home-road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy
The early
race
line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterback,
Pharrell,
backup quarterback.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
I
decisions.
have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
In the bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
Late
good betting.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid.
We did.
Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting, ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Oh, here he is, Joe Lisi. Is it true? Early week, you like the Lions, reroute. You like the Niners now? Brock Purdy, big week?
No, absolutely not. Is Bobby Slowick calling? Is Bobby Slowick calling the plays for the Niners?
He might have to. Ben Johnson's already hot on this Washington. They could use him in Detroit.
I can't wait. I'm loaded up with the props already. So,
really?
Yes.
We didn't see that coming.
No, you didn't, huh? No, I'm all locked and loaded. I got a party over. Party over, guys.
Listen, I'm sure you do. Listen, we had a caller on the money line today. I wish I had it clipped. I'd play it for you. They said Carver and Lisi running an 18-hour marathon out in Vegas.
Is that true? That's true?
That's true, actually. I don't know. Donnie might have paid someone off. It was Jay from Pennsylvania. He said, listen, I need more Carver and Lisi. They're holding out.
Can't blame him. I mean, how does show on the radio side? I don't know. Some are saying that's the dynamic duo. I don't know.
Really?
We might have to vie. I'm Batman no matter what. I'll say that.
No, all right. Take it easy. Take it easy now. Look, I want to. Listen, I'm hearing a lot about this Jahmyr Gibbs. What are you hearing?
Well, you know I'm hot on Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think Green Bay implemented the game plan last week to get Aaron Jones out in space. They had great consistency running the football early. He had the big 50-yard run, and if Detroit's going to win this ball game, Kev, Jahmyr Gibbs needs a big day on the ground, through the air. Alter him to 70-plus in terms of this ball game. I think it's in the area of like 296. It's great plus money. I mean, his total is 5.5, 46. I think he could get there because of his breakaway ability, and that's the recipe to keeping Brock Purdy on the sidelines.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I know. This is where we're not off air. There's a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs. There's a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing.
Montgomery?
Here, it may be Montgomery for the tutty. Maybe, in terms of the red zone opportunities, but I think in terms of the game plan, Jahmyr Gibbs does get a lot of yards. Put it this way, if Jahmyr Gibbs is under the 46.5 regular, I don't think they can win this ball game. I do feel he needs to break that. I do feel they need to get this game into the area 24-20. I think a higher scoring game will benefit San Francisco. Lower scoring benefits Detroit. Keep in mind, 2 road games that Detroit played very well. Week 1 against Kansas City, 21-20. And then that end of the regular season, that game against Dallas, even though they lost, they had an opportunity to pull that ball game out. It was 20-19.
Yeah, it was. I've told you, look, the Niners offense to me is the most attractive side in this game. I think Detroit may no show. I think they could hang around, right? It makes the side very tricky. The numbers jumped up to 7.5, though, which has been interesting. But for me, the way, the Deebo Samuel stuff, does it matter to you at all with the way you're on this game?
No, because again, if Detroit's going to win this game with or without Deebo Samuel, they need to run the football. Comes more down to me for the physicality and the consistency of Detroit's offensive line. If they're getting a push and they're able to sustain drives and get this game ugly, they're going to be in it from start to finish. So Deebo, he's obviously a benefit for San Francisco. The question I have is, I don't care if he's practiced. Can he take a hit? We're talking about a shoulder injury. We're not talking about a hammy. We're not talking about his ability to run. We're talking about his ability to take shots on that shoulder. And are they going to want to risk that in the first half of that ball game, especially as it relates to the rushing attack?
Yeah, I think 48.5 is his receiving number. That looks like a confident number, in my opinion. Now, you could say that number is much higher when he's full go, but it's still a decent price that you have to pay. I thought they would knock the IU props down a little lower. That has not happened here. Kansas City, Baltimore, we've seen some 4s pop here. Total still sitting 44.5. Any movement for you with the way you're viewing this game?
No, absolutely not. I mean, my best play, if you want me to give it out, is the total in terms of this ball game. I do lean to Baltimore. I would alt it up to 9.5. Again, my method is this. I think Baltimore has the more consistent offense and defensive line, even though Lamar hasn't been in this spot and won it, and Patrick has. it comes down to, we've seen the Kansas City Chiefs struggle to score 30 points. I believe they're going to have to score 30 points in this ballgame to win this matchup. So here's the thing, the breakdown for me. I think Lamar has a breakout performance through the air. I think they throw it to run it. I like him 275 plus. Give me a little OBJ, altered up to 80. And keep an eye. Andrews, I like in terms of the red zone opportunities, anytime touchdown. This game could be a party over. But here's the other thing, too. From perception, Joe Public, mushes, whatever you want to say. The people that bet Buffalo last week, okay, and lost because of Patrick Mahomes, what do you think they're going to do this week? Oh, Mahomes now +4? Mahomes +4? Gosh, can't lose that bet. Can't lose that. It's Kelsey.
Some are saying.
Right, I know it's a sure thing. I mean, Detroit and Baltimore shouldn't even show up.
I'll be honest. I am someone who's lost confidence in not the Ravens, but in fading Mahomes throughout the week. I still look Baltimore, but I think early week I was Baltimore and under. Now I'm just maybe getting hot on this total over 44.5. It's a long week, Joe. I'm willing to zig and zag all in the same week.
Well, me too.
Some people just zag. Some people just zag the whole time.
It's just because. I mean, it's you got it. It's because. Here's the thing, too. This could be a one-score game.
For you.
Could be a 3-4 point game, and then in the fourth quarter you tack on one more, and there's your double-digit win. I'm just saying. Some people have told me you could alter the Baltimore Ravens -9.5 at +190 and still be.
I did see that. I did see that. Listen, are you hot on this Anthony Fursker? 12-1 anytime. Heard the coach likes him big.
Coach who? Terry Bowden? Who likes him?
No, he coached in the network.
Deke?
I mean, first of all, he was. No. Let me tell you too. I didn't like what you were saying. Coaches don't matter in the NBA.
Oh,
I did
you
get
saw
a kick
that.
out of the first 15 scripted plays.
It was. Wait a second. That clip. It's not that coaches don't matter because they manage egos. I said, and what is because you're an NBA guy, what is the so-called scheme from an offensive defensive perspective that is taking the NBA by storm that they can't, that Doc Rivers has got, he's up until 6:30 every morning breaking down schematics of the Lakers and everybody else. Come on. The swinging game.
Here's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, a little 5 out, a little 5 out, a little drop coverage, a little Spain pick and roll. Look, I'll explode that melon of yours, pal. Take it easy, all right? Listen, you stick to your NBA sizzle plays. I'll tell you right now, don't come bashing my sport telling me we don't got schematics, okay? You got Army, Navy still running a triple option.
There you go.
We don't do that over here. We don't do that over here. All right? We chuck and move. Chuck and move. This LaMelo Ball right now, 2 for 7 in the first quarter. Nothing. He's lifeless.
Some might say that's good. I have a sizzle play coming up. I'm on air in 20 minutes, going solo for the first 40 minutes. Going to be all NBA action. All NBA.
I might have to tune in.
You might have to
I got to drive right when this is done. I got to go pick up some food. Listen, you a little hungry?
No, I'm stuffed. I'm stuffed like I can't. 2 burgers, mashed potatoes, and 2 Caesar salads with no croutons.
Now, hold on. You're holding out the NBA sizzle play for radio? You just use my show as a tease?
You know I love you. You know I love you. I'll give you the sizzle play.
All right, so listen, tune in.
I'll tell you what it is. You ready? Donovan Mitchell.
Oh, the 3.5 threes?
No.
Took him for 6+.
No, plus the 5. Give me them straight. I mean, here's the thing. They bashed him by 10 the other night. Now you got Doc pulling the plays. Everybody, Doc's been up all night. Give me the Cavs outright.
I honestly don't even know what's going on with the Doc thing. Like, is he even going to make a debut?
I think it's tonight. I think it is tonight. Supposedly,
hold on, let me investigate.
He's been up all hours. He's been up all hours.
Listen, it's a new offense tonight. I'm still hot on this Damian Lillard.
This is it, the swinging gate. They're gonna put 5 guys on the perimeter to allow game time, a perfect screen for threes. Is it true the first 10 possessions in the NBA are scripted?
No, because you know what? In the NBA, adapt. In the NFL, listen,
exactly
on 2nd and 10, I said we're running screen. I don't care if it's 1st and 15. That's it.
That's it. New formations. I want to see. I'm going to break down the NBA. I want to know what SportsGrid does that's so better than everybody. I got to get inside his head.
Yeah, listen, you could learn a thing or two. I'll tell you that.
I'll tell you what,
wow,
he could have
so
learned it too. They got smashed by the Celtics last night. No Rozier, 7 points.
I was on
Jimmy with
plus
only
the 8.
17. Jimmy too. Anytime Jimmy B wants to step up, put some money in my pocket. Unbelievable.
It'd be nice. Bam Adebayo left me waiting last night. It was an ugly game. I was hot on the Rozier. I took it from your strategy. All right, so what do you say? Me and you will do it Sunday. Sound good?
Sounds great. I'll hold out for the sizzle play. Party over on Sunday.
Hoffer and Lisi. Sizzle plays only. Dave Sharapan's up next. This LaMelo.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in the divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy
The early line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterback,
Pharrell
backup quarterback.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
You have
decisions.
no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
Late
good betting.
Night.
We waited for a 1.5. We got paid
We
information. Did like the 2.5. Jumped on There's it. no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Goodness. Oh, it's a beautiful time. NBA players are going wild. And if I had to guess, a lot of people are going to get real angry. No defense, no defense, no defense. How are you, Consig? Dave Sharapan is here.
Why would
Devin
you
Booker's
look at
had 29 at the end of one, has 31. He just hit the bench. Live prop 52.5. How are you?
That's juice. We like when the games have juice.
Correct.
Individual
Guys,
players. We're talking on the break. You're looking for alt point totals individually. I mean, you made a call. Is he going to have 50 by halftime? Is this one of those ones where we're looking at a record?
I know this is crazy to say. I think he can hit 82 tonight. I really think he can break Kobe's record. I know that's so crazy to say, but he's got 29. He just went to the bench with 31.
Okay.
By the way, his last game he scored 46. 4 games before that scored 52. He's on an unreal heater, okay?
Yep.
Embiid just touched 70. Devin's hit 70 before in his career. They're playing the Pacers. They can't defend a lick.
Right.
But I'm talking about I have to bet the 50 plus. But I got to wait for him to get in the game.
What's the
minus 196?
I think he gets 50. I think he gets 50 halfway through the third quarter at the latest. He gets
At
back
the latest,
in
52 and a half live number.
The best part about it is you got a running partner, right, with the Pacers. Like the danger about betting the guy in a blowout is he don't play the fourth or only plays 3 minutes in the fourth. He's going to play. Let's go feed him the ball. It's like when you were on the court back in your playing days when you would get hot, right?
Yes.
We'd feed you the
point.
ball.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a great breakdown.
It's exactly what we have to do.
Just
get you the ball.
A plus. A plus. Hey, how about those Chicago Bulls? No cover. Uh-oh. Lakers, red hot. Oh. How about Chicago Blackhawks? No cover on the 2.5. But would have covered the 3.5. It was expensive, but they covered the 3.5.
Right? You get an empty netter with a minute to go to get the 3. It was 0-0 after
Did you see the first quarter scoreless? Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, but when we talked about, that's one of those things, again, the more I do this, sometimes a number looks wrong and you go, let's lock in.
Yeah.
And then a number looks really wrong and you go, nope, get me away from this. Not doing it. Not doing it, right? I'm sure a lot of people last night, and I'm not knocking them bet Edmonton in the quarter. By the way, I was talking with someone. Did the game start yet? Okay, wait, I have a hockey play. I had a conversation with someone.
Hockey
who's
guy.
been doing well on the ice. Hold on.
Is this brother Walsh?
I'm going to throw
conversation with the brother, baby brother? No.
How do you know that? That's secret, top secret information.
We've done many shows together. You opened up and told your whole story on Cash Considerations. It's one of our most listened to shows ever. You told us about the high school career. You told us about the brothers.
Yeah.
Me, you, and Donnie used to do the show every day and Pizza Fridays with the brothers and the parents. And I know that he's your hockey guy. I mean, this is did I let something out of the bag? I'm sorry. Apologies.
It's one of the, I would never lie, but it's good by you. I want to throw the game to you first. Yep. And then us. Avs, Kings, Colorado, I'm seeing 142, total 6.5. What are you seeing here?
About the same thing, 140, 145-ish. 6.5 for the total. I mean, this got to be Avalanche, no? This is all Avalanche. Why is it so low?
Any thoughts on this total?
Over.
See, here's what I'm hearing. Ear to the ground. Ear to the ground.
Yes.
Kings playing poorly. Star player calls out. All anybody cares about is points. No good. So why is this line so short? I'm thinking sharp money. He's saying Kings, step up, right? But if the guy's saying, we care about his points, what do we got to do? We got to defend. Also, what do we got to do? I'm worried about, he's going to think I'm selfish, extra pass. We're missing out on opportunities. 6.5, under in the Avs-Kings game.
Wow. That's a tremendous breakdown right there by you. Do you have an inherent bias against the Avalanche? I feel like you're constantly looking. You kind of besmirched McKinnon a little bit yesterday. You're kind of talking a little bit like you're underestimating the Avalanche. I'm just saying, I'm asking, is there a bias there between you or your hockey guy?
Not on the hockey guy. Had a radio caller today, said he liked the Avs. I respect. Okay. McKinnon scoring 4. Is this game This game goes 4-1, though. McKinnon scores all 4. Moves
Could
to
go under.
-220
Well, I don't think he scores all 4, but I think you could bet him to score a goal. Right? Bet him to score
Let's see
a
what
goal.
that is.
There's a little
Let's
plus
see how
money
expensive that is.
right there. Is that
Let's see.
expensive? It shouldn't be expensive.
I'm curious.
Guys,
Plus 105.
there you go. A little plus money. Hockey play. We talk ourselves right into this. I mean, I think we talked ourselves into the under in the Edmonton Chicago game last night. We thought it might be a shutout or 1 goal only for the Blackhawks. So we can get there, different ways, different paths to get there. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get the money, K-Dub. You can get to the window a bunch of different ways.
It's true.
I mean,
always looking to get
and
there.
I throw one NBA, the
Go
late
ahead.
game.
Whoa.
We'll probably be out to a nice dinner somewhere, living it up, doing something. But Portland and San Antonio tonight. Are you kidding?
Go ahead.
I mean, we got a game that ain't nobody looking at, including nobody in the book. The risk guys, everybody just throws out a 3, 3.5. This is Spurs all day, all night. Wemby, yes. Spurs, come on. That's a play. No? Right? What do you think?
We had Mark Zeno stop by earlier. He said his ugly play of the night was late with San Antonio. Line's on the move towards San Antonio, so the bad guys are coming in with their Wemby ROI tickets saying, let's get a big game tonight against Portland. And there's a secret reason to be on it that I won't tell you until commercial. So Spurs make sense. Spurs make sense.
I love
Spurs
the
make
secret
sense.
reasons. Those are my favorite.
I
love
know.
Those. You got to be in on those.
I'm on the under in this Pels Thunder game, 239.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
Why? Under? I love when you
Yeah.
come with the under. You surprise me in a game where it looks
I
like
know.
that's an over. That's a juice game. No?
And
Why
I'd
under?
rather bet over in the Cavs-Bucks game. I think.
Fair. Okay.
That
I
Cleveland
heard
team
Leasty.
total,
I
they
mean,
could
is he giving out the outright cash?
It's the best.
Is that what he said?
It's the best. Yeah, he thinks they can strike the upset.
It's one of those unique situations. Do you like this in the NBA now? They stay in the same city and play the same
No.
game. They just played this
No.
2 days ago. Closed Bucks, 7? They win by 10.
Give or
They
take.
stay in the same city. Now Doc shows up. I guess he's going to coach, and the line comes down. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
Was it a crypto play when Lisi give it out? When
No,
if it's
this
a
is
crypto play, move.
they're always crypto. No, but this is we've seen it now pretty regularly. Especially, I'll tell you this: like if the Cavs would have took that first game, it's just you got to throw the missile down then on the Bucks.
Man,
it's so because you can't double up a team. It happened to the Bucks early season. Nobody remembers this. I do because I thought it was crazy. I still think that NBA Christmas should be special. So Christmas happened on a Monday? On that Friday, it was Friday or Saturday. They had the Bucks were playing in the Garden. What are we doing? And then the Bucks played in the Garden again and lost. Of course they lost. Why are you running double ups in the Garden? That's showing no respect to the Garden. I don't like that.
There's no travel in between, K-Dub. I actually like the double ups. I'm surprised by the line move. I think you fall into the trap betting the opposite.
I think the line move, here's what happens. The line move is there because it's all gone. Like, that's why I don't bet them, right?
Yeah.
They'd have left at 7.5, I bet on Cavs, but now I want to be on Cavs. They know I want to be on Cavs. 5.5, here's the bad number.
Now you're thinking.
So now I come in, bad number, let me bet Bucks. My first thing was right. It's Bucks by 2 at the gun on a Dame 3, 5th of the game. Could be a Dame night. I think it's a big Dame night.
I like it.
They're hanging. Did they change the NBA All-Star format again? I can't keep up. The All-Star game lines are out. Totals 364.5. That means they changed the format.
They had to, right? Well, it was much higher than that, no? Before?
Lower. No, it's East versus West again. So what? Team LeBron was too dominant? I think he lost last year, but that doesn't count. It wasn't his fault.
20 years. You got to give the guy credit. 20 years voted in the All-Star game? How does that even possible?
It'd be nice if he got credit.
It is. By the way, I just checked in.
He hasn't come back in.
Oh, okay.
But that's, and I think most people know that by now, but on the chance that folks haven't done a lot of live NBA betting, Don't bet a guy when he heads to the bench. Don't bet a guy when he heads to the bench.
No.
As you know, because that 50
they're
plus
opening
is
up
down to
the
minus.
lead, K-Dub. This isn't good.
Yeah, but see, I want people to understand this, okay? Because we're always honest. When I take that big pause, that means we're thinking about betting big, right? We're not figuring out if we like it. We're figuring out how much we like it. You know what I'm saying? Okay? I'm not trying to figure out if it's a good number. I'm trying to figure out if it's a great number. Yes. Yes. How
Unit
important is dinner
calculation
tonight?
with the pause.
Correct.
When you go like this, that when you make that noise, I know that there's something there.
Yeah.
Like that's when you
Yeah.
disagree or something. Yeah, that's the one.
You're trying to figure out if Devin Booker's going to treat dinner tonight is kind of the question all of a sudden.
Speaking of dinner, I heard. I mean, you'll be
Tell
on
me.
Sunday with Big Show and all this other stuff. What's the Super Bowl matchup? What are we talking about Monday? What is it?
Well, it's so nuts. I mean, I think Niners Ravens. I do.
Yeah.
But
I think so.
These Chiefs games, the longer the week goes on, happened last week and it's happening again. The longer the week goes on, I'm like, I just don't know. I lose the steam. But here's. So I'm someone who was on the over last week in the Chiefs-Bills game and was very proud to be on the over and was proud to watch them handle business.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw early week this total. I went, nah, it's an under. Ravens defense steps up, da-da-da. But then I'm sitting there, I'm like, hold on a minute. There's 4 MVP trophies out there, and we're going under 44.5.
Right.
That's tough.
Ooh. Yeah. No weather. You believe this? AFC and NFC championships, both outside, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. The weather's not going to be a factor. So you're going to see the move go up. The numbers are going up. It was 51 in the second game. It's going up, 52. They're going to bet over. The first game was 45, went down to 44, flirted. It's going up. I think both games have juice. Obviously, chalk money line parlay is, I think, the easy play. Which dog do you think has a chance of winning, K-Dub?
But see, that's what's driving me nuts, man. And again, I don't care. People can say it's stupid. That's how my brain works. That money line parlay being like minus 110 is so unfortunate. So unfortunate. You know how many money line parlays are on the Niners and the damn Ravens? Because I don't know. I just. By the way, Devin Booker, right? We've talked about where his live number is. Luka 55.5. Devin doesn't even have the highest number on the book.
Wow.
NBA is the best. The NBA is the best. Can I get Nathan McKinnon over 55.5 points? Doubt it. You know what, McKinnon? I'll take this challenge head on. Avs are not winning the cup. Take it down. Nice. I'll talk to you next week. Best bet on the other side.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in the divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
Well, look at the Heisman Trophy
The early
race
line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Pharrell
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
I have
decisions.
no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
Late
good betting.
Night.
We waited for a 1.5. We got paid.
We did.
Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back right here, Game Time Decisions. I am Kevin Walsh. It is a Friday night. We say our goodbyes, send you off into the weekend here, where there's going to be plenty of coverage from pro football today. Live Sunday, 9 a.m. Myself, Donnie Rightside, and Joe Lisi. Up next here on SportsGrid will be in-game live, where they not only will hit the live NBA slate, but a big college basketball game in the Big Ten coming up between Michigan State going to Wisconsin. First meeting, Badgers on the road. Second meeting, at least I expect Tyson Walker on the road to step up for Sparty and go over his points prop at 17.5. My favorite bet here is Walker over this number. A clear and simple bounce back for one of the best players in the conference, averaging nearly 20 a game this season, coming off of a bad performance against Maryland. The Terps do have a pretty strong defense, better than that of the Badgers, and they held Tyson Walker to under the 40% from the field for just the 4th time this season for Walker. And for Tyson Walker, in the 3 times that he's played so far off the bounce back, tonight will be the 4th, he averages 22.7 points per game on 58% shooting from the field. So when you see that efficiency uptick, it all works out. I do not mind if you also wanted to play Walker over the PRA of 22.5, because I think Walker should be in the 20s tonight scoring-wise. Those rebounds and assists will feel almost like freebies checking in. NBA-wise, Lillard over the 24.5 points still coming up here. Playing the Cavs once again. I'm going back to Dame, who hit this against them but did struggle from an efficiency perspective. And then we're playing the under in New Orleans tonight. The Pels and the Thunder matchup. 2 teams that are top 10 on both sides, offense and defense. I think defense prevails relative to this total at 239. I'm Kevin Walsh. That's Game Time Decisions. That's the block.